When talking about tanks, people often put a large emphasis on armor protection. After all, it is what tanks are known for, right? Tanks are known to most people as these hulking metal beasts that can take almost anything, and dish out just as much damage. In my opinion, I think that's just a bit misguided. Tanks are far from invincible, and I don't even think I would rate armor protection as being one of the most important aspects of a tank's design. Now, before you get your pitchfork, hear me out a little bit. One thing that is often not understood about tank armor is that you should never rely on it. No rational tank crew would willingly expose themselves to a threat while knowing that the opposition is looking right at them, and has some kind of anti-tank weapon, no matter how antiquated or supposedly ineffective. Armor is just a backup for when you really mess up. In tank design, there's a pretty simple philosophy to survival. It goes like this. 1. Don't be seen. 2. If you are seen, don't be hit. 3. If you are hit, don't be penetrated. 4. If you are penetrated, don't be killed. Armor is only one factor in a tank's capability to survive an engagement. In tank combat, the first tank to get a shot off usually wins. Not only does a single shot have a high probability of disabling a tank even from the front, but crews will often bail out of a tank that has been hit even if there is no significant damage. Not only that, but the majority of hits that a tank takes are to the sides and rear armor. I would argue that there's really no point in trying to armor a tank to the point that it can withstand a direct hit from another tank's gun. Armoring a tank to the point where it can resist infantry anti-tank weapons should be all that matters. Infantry-based anti-tank systems are by far the biggest threat that a tank can face, but are usually easier to stop than anti-tank munitions fired from tank guns. They can be stopped by active protection systems, explosive reactive armor, slat armor, and an NERA composite. You're probably thinking, why ditch armor in the first place? What is there to gain? It's fairly simple. Armor greatly increases a tank's overall weight. By reducing that weight, you get several advantages. First, the tank will now have better overall mobility, higher top speed, better acceleration, lower ground pressure. All these can be obtained by shedding weight. Better mobility allows for the tank to be more flexible both strategically and tactically. Places that might have been off limits for heavier MBTs are now traversable. Weather conditions that may have hampered other tanks are no longer an issue. By reducing the weight, you can also reduce the overall strain on the tank's mechanical components, especially the suspension. One thing that people often forget to consider is tank recovery. Tanks will inevitably become destroyed, disabled, or stuck. When that happens, you need to be able to extract and transport the tank, or what remains of it, back to a secure location for repair or scrapping. The heavier a tank is, the more difficult it is to extract. During World War II, German tanks such as the Tiger and Tiger II were too heavy to be extracted by many of Germany's armored recovery vehicles, often needing multiple vehicles in order to extract a single tank. In more recent times, the rapid increase in the weight of the M1 Abrams made it impossible for single vehicle recovery, or SVR. The recovery vehicle designed to help alleviate this issue, the M88A2, still struggles in this task, due to the sheer weight of the M1 Abrams. By reducing the weight of the tank through shedding armor, not only will the tank be less likely to get itself stuck, but it will be much easier to recover it when it does. The use of dynamic protection like active protection systems, explosive reactive armor, and slat armor allows the tank to be well protected without needing heavy armor. Also, many anti-tank missiles have top attack modes designed to exploit the weak roof armor of tanks, which can never be armored to such a degree as to be totally protected from such a threat. Such missiles almost entirely negate the benefits of having thick armor. The current state of tank armor is somewhat similar to the state it was during the Cold War, where heat shells and ATGMs almost entirely guaranteed the tank would be penetrated, regardless of where it was hit. Because of this, many nations chose to forego protecting their tanks from tank guns, and instead settled on protecting them from autocannons. I think that as ATGMs become deadlier, and conventional tank guns are replaced by things like ETC guns, nations will move back to that sort of mindset. In fact, it seems that some nations are already starting to follow this trend. Tank design has become incredibly homogenized. It's not difficult even for relatively small nations to build or purchase tanks weighing upwards of 60 tons. But nations fully capable of doing so, such as Korea, Japan, and Russia, have all recently developed tanks that trend towards being smaller and lighter. Japan's Type 10 was designed to be lighter than the previous Type 90, because the Type 90, due to its weight, found it difficult to operate in some of Japan's environments. The Russians, no longer bound by Soviet doctrine, designed the T-14, which is a mere 2 tons heavier than its predecessor, the T-90. Even the US military, which has been happy to pile more and more weight onto the M1 Abrams, will likely make their next main battle tank lighter instead of heavier. Recent Army tank programs have indicated as much, even though they have all been cancelled. I fully believe the tanks will become smaller and lighter as technology progresses, but that's just my opinion. Maybe armor will come back into relevancy with the development of newer composite materials. And that wraps up the video. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed it.